Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Guild Wars 2 ESL Pro League for North America. I am Joe Storm Noasel, and back with me this week is Christian Hurix Thomaser. We're in our sixth and second to last week of Pro League action here.
Yeah, we got a lot of exciting matches. We have a lot of stuff already kind of decided right now, so it's definitely going to be a pretty interesting day to see where things, progress. We have a couple of things left to be decided, so definitely going to be really interesting for us.
Let's take a look at our season schedule. As I said, we are in our second to last week. Next Monday will be our final week of Season 1. Following that, we will see a bit of a break before our studio final for Season 1 on February 20th.
Yeah, and over the course of those dates, all these teams are vying for $200,000, and that will be, of course, 8 teams per region, 16 in total, with the round-robin league format, best of 3 matches. The top 2 teams from each region, so 4 teams in total, will be going to that final match that you were talking about there in February. Of course, all these matches are going to be 5-on-5 in Conquest format. We have 4 maps that we are going to be using in competitive play that you have seen so far throughout this season. Of course, the ones we're going to be seeing today are Temple, Forest, and Faux Fire.
And something you mentioned earlier, that $200,000 prize pool, taking a look at how that's going to play out for the season. First place taking home $10,000, second place taking home $9,000, all the way down to $2,500 for 8th. And as you did mention, the top 2 from both regions heading to that studio final. $50,000 for first, all the way down to $12,500 for both 3rd and 4th place. So a lot of money on the line still for all these teams, yet to prove something in these final 2 weeks. And of course, if you can't follow us along for all of the action for today's Pro League matches, be sure to head over to ESL's Facebook and Twitter at ESL GW2.
Yeah, and you can follow both of us as well. For me, it will be at CT Hurix for my Twitter, and then, of course, at Game with Storm as well for his. We will actually be giving away gems at the end of the day, so if you want to head over to our Twitters, go over there and follow us. We would both be picking a follower at random, so you can win some gems that way pretty easy. Just follow us on Twitter, and that's it. So.
Now to take a look at our match schedule for the day. Unfortunately, our first match was supposed to be Apex against the Abjured. They had to forfeit due to ineligible roster, so the Abjured going to take home a 2-0 victory right away. Our first actual match, though, will be Team PZ up against Zero Counterplay.
Yeah, and we also will have a little bit of insight with that match going into that one coming up in just a couple minutes here. But following that match will be Never Lucky versus Final Form. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the more interesting matches of the day, as Never Lucky and Final Form, in my opinion, are kind of on even grounds at the moment. Never Lucky has really kind of improved over the course of the last couple of weeks, especially since the changes in December. They've really kind of picked their game up with their 2 new players, Fav and Steel, so it'll be interesting to see how that game pans out. And then following that in the match 4 slot will be Spooky versus Easy Peasy. And of course, Spooky needs to hold on to every single match that they can if they hope to edge out versus PZ and make it to the season finals. So
a lot of great matchups coming your way today. Taking a look at our current standings for the season 1, atop everything is still the Abjured, even with their victory today at 18 points. Spooky, Apex, and PZ all tied in 2nd place.
Yeah, and coming in tied at 5th will be Easy Peasy, and then 2 teams that are going to be playing against each other today, Final Form and Never Lucky. And Never Lucky once again with an opportunity to kind of edge away from some of their opponents here and maybe make a name for themselves towards the end of the season. But then, of course, we also have Zero Counterplay coming in at 0 points in that 8th place slot. But interestingly enough, they still have 2 weeks. You never know if they can pull something out at the last minute, and we will be able to kind of get some insight into what they're thinking and how they've been able to get this far and what their plans are for the future. So.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like you said, a little bit of insight. We are going to have Moops join us from Zero Counterplay in a few minutes, and then after him, we will be talking to Chaith from the Abjured, as their match should not go on today. Get a little bit of insight on both these teams. Kind of on the opposite sides of the spectrum. At the
absolutely.
top of the season, the standings, at the bottom of the standings, seeing their gameplay going into the season finals for the Abjured and into season 2 potentially for Zero Counterplay, or even just Moops for that matter. But I want to touch on something you had mentioned. Never Lucky up against Final Form.
Right.
Both teams 2 and 3. They're really good teams, really respectable teams. Never Lucky, who looked a little bit shabby, not too great at the start of the season. I've really amped it up, looking really good right now. In Final Form, we expected great things from them at the start of the season. Kind of fell down, not to where we quite expected, but nevertheless, these are 2 good teams going to be going at it today.
Yeah, so of course, Final Form was one of those teams that kind of everybody expected to do actually pretty well at the beginning of the season. I mean, going into it in the preseason kind of time, where teams were just kind of playing each other, screaming about, and Final Form was looking pretty good, man. Final Form was going around, and they were playing pretty well with themselves. Of course, the meta did adjust, and unfortunately for them, they weren't really one of those teams that were as flexible, or at least as quick to make that quick adaptation to the new meta, and they kind of slumped because of that. They're coming back a little bit now, where they're making a little bit of headway against some of the better teams in the league, but unfortunately, they just fell a little bit too short towards the beginning of the season, and now they're trying to work their way back. On the other hand, Never Lucky is a team that everybody kind of expected to really not really do that much at all. Physics dropping out towards the beginning of the season and then winding up joining Spooky, a team that is now tied for second. They picked up two players that were, I would say, relatively unheard of, but I mean they were unheard of.
Yeah.
Both Steel and Fayov. I mean, Steel, of course, has played around a little bit. Fayov is definitely the name that not a lot of people know of at all. I mean, coming from the World v World scene, same thing with Steel, kind of just getting his toes wet a little bit. But,
Yep.
I mean, Never Lucky has really done a lot to come back.
They have, and I look forward to seeing that matchup later on. As we said, we have our interview with Moobs. He's actually ready to join us. He's from Zero Counterplay. Moobs has a matchup against Team PZ in just a little bit. That will be our first matchup. How are you guys feeling about this one going into today, Moobs?
We're feeling okay. That's all I can say.
So, I mean, as a team, you guys came in here just like PZ off of the open qualifier. You guys got in. I mean, did you anticipate that you guys were going to be sitting in the position that you guys are in now, or did you kind of expect that you might have had a little bit more?
No, I think we were shooting for 4th or 5th place. I think we definitely expected to beat a couple of the teams coming into the season, like almost hands down. But obviously, things haven't gotten that way.
Yeah, and I mean, looking forward, of course, we still have your matchup this week against PZ, and you still got your matchup next week. But just looking past that, of course, there's still the relegation matches. Are you guys looking to stay together as a team? Do you have plans to participate, just you individually, participate on a team in Season 2? Or what's your game plan going into the next season?
I think 3 of us at least are going to stay. I think 3 of the roster that you've seen so far this season that are going to be playing today, me, Hypno, and Aerox, we'll probably be playing next season together, most likely.
All right, so you guys hope to, try to do a lot better next season, of course. I mean, obviously at this stage,
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys still do have 2 games left in the season, and I hope that you guys are still kind of trying to look ahead and maybe create opportunities, because at the moment, I mean, you guys could play the God card. I mean, you guys have that opportunity to say, PZ goes to the finals or Spooky goes to the finals. If you wind up upsetting either team, do you think you have a shot at making it an upset in either PZ or Spooky matchup?
Well, today we're playing with a brand new roster that we're just going to be testing in like a really quick scrim, like right now. It's going to be the only time we've ever played. Next week, maybe there's going to be a better chance. We'll have to see.
So maybe an upset on Spooky then, and maybe. The
Well,
thing is, though, is
yeah.
that PZ is already going to make it. So, I mean, at that point, it won't really matter as much in terms of, the projection of the season goes. But it'll definitely be interesting to see what you guys have for this week and next week.
And you mentioned this new roster coming in. Is this what we're looking at for a potential Zero Counterplay for Season 2? Like, is this the, you said 3 of you going to be sticking together. Are these a couple of guys that are going to be coming in with you guys?
I think we'll take them if they want to play. This is kind of like a last minute thing. We picked them up last night, I think, and I didn't even know till today. But yeah, if Inda and Eternity want to play with us, I'm sure that we'll be down.
All right, so I do have one more question for you. I mean, you talk about how you guys want to come back for Season 2. What kind of things are you looking forward to? I mean, obviously you know about the balance patch, you know about what's coming with it. Is there anything that you're kind of looking forward to trying? Anything that you are looking forward to in terms of the new meta that could possibly pick up? Anything that you're looking at maybe giving a go?
Well, we don't know too much about how much or how good the meta is going to be for us. We know that Thief's probably going to be pretty strong, so Aerox is excited. We're going to be excited to have Aerox because he's been a pretty high-level Thief for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. NG's probably going to be good, so if Cinda wants to play, that'll be good. Hypno's a good multi-classer, and I'm praying that Guardian's going to be back in the meta. I'm really praying.
Well, let's hope for it. Any last thoughts or shout-outs to your fans out there before you go ahead and take on PZ in just, about an hour or so?
I don't know. I just want to call it to the Twitch chat, probably making fun of this little red dot on my my lip for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and good luck today against Team PZ. That was Moobs from Zero Counterplay, giving us a little bit of an insight on looking forward towards that season too. But talking a little bit about that matchup against PZ, what do you think going into this match their thoughts have to be and what they have to do to try and pull the upset?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a hard one. I mean, PZ is a team that has really had, I mean, not too much of a struggle. I mean, a little bit in the beginning of the season as they were trying to kind of find where their feet are going to place on the ground. I mean, Apex Prime was their first matchup. They lost that one. Apex, a team that has, at this point, I think they're kind of struggling at the moment
Yeah.
where, they're sitting at, what is it, 3-2, I believe, at the moment. And then now they're going to be at 3-3 because of the forfeit today. So that's a team that is now out of the tie. They're going to be moving down towards, I believe, tied with fourth place now is how that works. Yeah, so tied with fourth place now. So I mean, certainly PZ is a team that is going to be tough to beat for anyone, especially zero counterplay that hasn't really had too much success at all. I mean, rather any success at all. So really curious to see how they use that new roster.
Yeah.
That'll definitely be the only hope for them, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not to knock them. I mean, it's really their only hope at this point because they really haven't found any success with their current roster. So.
And as you say, their new roster, he mentioned Cyndaquil in on that. I mean, that's somebody that's played with Aerox in particular back on Cunning Stunts way back when. That was almost a year ago for that matter. So that was a long time ago. So those guys might have a little synergy, but I look forward to seeing what Cyndaquil is going to bring to that roster because he's a pretty optimistic player going into matches. He's going to bring a lot of, I think, energy to that roster. And going with him into today's match against Team PZ, they're going to have to look out for Muffins and K-Bud in particular. That's how you shut them down, and teams have struggled with that.
Yeah, and I think finding Muffins and K-Bud is definitely going to be a struggle. I think the vulnerability points for them to look at, things that they can try to exploit. I mean, shutting down Muffins and K-Bud is definitely going to be what you want to do. Unfortunately for them, it might be too tall of a task. It might be easier instead to try to deal with and try to exploit mistakes made by either Zeus or the other Mesmer Marvin. I mean, those two are players that are very solid, but those are the ones that you could possibly exploit weaknesses. Aside from that, I mean, the thing with Cyndaquil that you were just talking about, Cyndaquil is, a very good player, and he's had a lot of success before with cunning stunts. And, the only thing that I would see with him is that this team actually doesn't really have anyone that's, I would say, a star caller, like a star shot caller, anyone that can really call rotations. And Cyndaquil has had a little bit of a struggle with rotations in the past, so it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of mold each other as a team, and then someone will rise up and kind of take that role. Because at the moment, zero counterplay has been struggling because they don't have anyone in that role. I mean, there's no one calling the shots. There's no one able to call those rotations and really effectively call those rotations to where they can actually beat some of these teams in the Pro League.
Well, look forward to that first matchup between Team PZ and Zero Counterplay. But for now, we do have our interview ready with 5 Gauge. That would be Chafe from the Absurd, who happened to get that free win over Apex Prime 2-0. I mean, were you guys worried about going into today's matchup that didn't really happen? Or are you pretty excited? I mean, what are your thoughts right now?
Hey, Storm and Herox. Yeah, today we all woke up with our game face on and got our tough nut gear ready to go, proper attire and ready to go to war. So pretty much we were ready today to throw down. But yeah, ended up having some roster issues with Apex. And from what we understand so far, what happened was they need to get a sub. And that ended up not happening, or they decided not to go forward with the sub for whatever reason. And yeah, unfortunately, they had to drop out today. So.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that you guys weren't able to play. Of course, I mean, in my opinion, I thought you guys had the upper hand in that one. But, I mean, that also was a pretty important match in terms of the season projections where, it could go into a position where if Apex had won it for, whatever chance that might be, they would be also in the running at that point for a 3-way tie. That would have been actually kind of confusing because, at that point it would have gone into whoever won the most matches for second place. And I don't know how that adds up. If I'm not mistaken, I think PZ has that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, either way, it would have been kind of confusing because, in a head-to-head, you're talking about Spooky beating Apex, Apex beating PZ, and PZ beating Spooky. So.
Yeah. We think that PZ firmly has the advantage going into this last couple weeks. Absolutely. And now that Apex is forfeited to us, it seems like PZ's chances of getting into the LAN event are pretty much solidified, we think, at least. However, they do need to win their games, but we think they have a good chance of doing that. So they're heavily favored, at least in my opinion, to take that. So that's good. with
I
us
just want
too.
to shift to the season finals. I mean, you guys have already gotten your ticket there. You're already good to go. And we know that 55 have made it along with Vermilion. So have you guys looked into both of those teams very much? And if so, who are you guys wanting to go up against in that matchup? Because those two teams will play each other next week.
Well, you see, it's really, really early to say what team we'd be more favored to do well against or whatever would pick our matchups, because we're going to have a big paradigm shift coming before the LAN event. Everything's going to change. We have a balance patch dropping on the 26th, I believe, and we haven't had a chance, or we won't have a chance, to see any EU teams play from when the balance patch drops, when the meta changes, everyone re-gets the new builds and refines them. We're going to have to pretty much go in blind based on what they'll be running, what they found out is good. So we really have no idea which team we'd pick our matchups against or how to peg them and who is the bigger threat to us. So we don't really know, and there's no way to tell. And it's going to be a big scramble once the balance patch hits to find the best things.
Yeah, I mean, the season finals, you could argue that it's really going to come down to the team that's quickest to adapt. I mean, honestly, not even just in the 2.5 weeks that you guys have, because I mean, it is about 3 weeks that you guys have, but of course you'll be traveling for some of those days, so you won't really have too much of an opportunity, in that time frame. So I would say like a good 2.5 weeks that you guys will probably have, almost 3 weeks at that point for you guys to find builds. But I mean, that is a lot of time to figure stuff out. Not in the grand scheme of things. It's enough time for you to kind of find a direction you want to go in, but of course there's going to be things that you guys are going to miss. So I mean, I would argue that it would come down to the team that's quickest to adapt on the day of. I mean, do you guys feel confident that you guys are going to be able to do that kind of thing, pull that off?
100%. We have no idea what they're going to pull. So if they pull anything out of the bag, we have to really be able to counter them from match 1 to match 2. So we have no clue what they're going to run. They have no clue what we're going to run. It's going to be really all about who can counter each other on the day of, and really who can pull a better counter comp at the day of. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Are you guys worried at all? I mean, for the most part, I mean, you're on NG, pretty much almost every composition you guys run. Nos is on Necro for almost any composition you guys run, and I know that you guys are capable of multi-classing, but for the most part, you guys are technically just on your mains for a majority of the game. I mean, a strong majority. Do you guys worry that maybe they'll find something that might counter those two classes, and you guys will be stuck in a position where you might not be able to be as effective as you might think you would be going into it at the moment?
That's a possibility always, especially when you have certain people who play and specialize in one specific profession. For example, like Nos is Necromancer to my engineer. Toker is very proficient on Thief and Revenant,
Right.
and Wakey and Fanta are more of our multi-classers. But usually every meta, me and Nos play our respective professions, and we usually have been just fine on those. Even when Necromancer and Engineer were not in the best of spots, we still played it, and we still had very good matchups and very good odds in the pro tournaments with those classes. So we really do think that we have a really big advantage when we play our mains. And at the same time, too, look at the balance that's projected for the next period. We do think that Engineer and Necromancer are going to be in a fine spot. If anything, I think that Necro and Engie have the least worries of what their spot's going to be in the next
Certainly
balance patch.
Necromancer at this point
Yeah.
that has no worries.
Yeah, I mean, looking towards, as he said, towards adapting with the new balance patch. Like he said, you guys multi-class, but do you think you're going to have a lot to bring out of that bag? Like you said, you're going to have to adapt when you're actually at the season finals to go from game 1 to game 2, depending upon what they're running. Are you guys going to be working around multiple things to bring into that, or just try to be the best at what you can at that point in time?
Yeah.
Like you specifically on NG, or are you going to pull out another class if you have to?
Basically, in the past, I've always had multiple builds and engineer that I could pull out based on what they're running and stuff like that. Small modifications really matter. For example, like in the current meta, whether I run the Celestial Amulet or whether I run the Marauder totally changes the matchup. For example, when I practice with Toker, he's on his Revenant, I'm on my engineer, he will beat me every single time that I run Marauder with his Invocation Revenant build with Berserker Amulet. And when I switch to Celestial, I win every single game, or 1v1, right? So it really changes the matchup. A small amulet switch, and that being it. Small modifications, small tweaks are really what it's going to be. So if you have that understanding, the intimate understanding of the classes to know which small modification to make will massively influence your matchups and really slant it in your favor. So it's going to be all about learning the small details of your class and the other classes too. And we think that pretty much when the new balance happens, we're going to be making our new comps then. and we'll definitely decide on having multiple strategies based on what the top things are. So basically, strategies that they can run, what we're gonna do to counter it. We'll have many comps we can do. Probably we'll settle on 2 or 3 different setups and strategies. Probably about something like that, and we think we'll be pretty prepared for when the actual LAN comes. 3 to 4 weeks from now, or 4 weeks from now, 3 from when the balance patch happens. We think that's enough time to get a couple comps and really play them well. So we think we're pretty confident.
And you guys do have an advantage over all of the other teams as well. I mean, you are the only team that has actually played in front of a live audience as a team together collectively. I mean, looking at Vermilion 55 and even PZ or Spooky, none of those teams have been in the same position where they've played live together as a team in person in front of a crowd of people just watching you and, you know, looking at you the whole time in person, right in your face, and you can see them all. And do you think that actually has as much of an effect as people might assume it does, or does it have more, less, anything like that? Do you know?
It's a small factor. Small factor. I think that players at this stage in the game, it's hard to get them on tilt just because in a live audience, but it's true. Like there's things that happen to you psychologically you can't even really control consciously that happen when you're on a stage. For example, like I'll use an example. What would happen to me in Cologne when I was playing on stage? I have plenty of LAN experience. You know, I've been to 3 events, and the 3rd event, I went to a LAN event. I was actually getting some nerves, you know, and I was doing things mechanically in the game. For example, I'll use a real good one here. I've been using Healing Turret on Engineer for many years now, perfectly. You know, it's total muscle memory. Don't even think about it. Goes up perfectly. But in the heat of the moment, I actually messed up the Healing Turret and didn't get the second overcharge off on me. And I was like, what? Like, this never happens to me. But it's only explained by the fact that your gameplay changes in a very slight way when you're on stage. And we do have the most LAN experience. We do, for sure, over anyone else. PZ does have LAN experience, but not as a team. They individually do, like Kpud, Java, or Kpud, Zeus. I'm pretty sure they do. They were at Gamescom a couple years back. And but I do think that it will go in our favor, but not a huge factor from that.
All right. Well, looking at a little bit of your matchups, you know, next week, looking at Never Lucky, how are you feeling going against those guys? You know, kind of shifting back from the season finals, but you still got one matchup against a team, Never Lucky, who's gotten pretty darn good over the last few weeks. How do you guys think they might fare up against them? Any worries against going up against that composition?
We feel like the only thing that NA can really come up with right now is the typical double Revenant, double Mesmer X. You know what I mean? And we feel like whatever that that composition can be, we feel like we can handle it. I don't think there's anything out there right now that we would be surprised by. So I feel like we have a very strong chance of winning that match. And even in the worst case scenario, we do take a loss. It's not going to affect us going forward from here anyway. So we feel very carefree at this point, obviously having our ticket punched. Next week, though, we're not underestimating anyone. We definitely have to play our best. And, you know, if we go on tilt and don't get the things we need to do, or we know we can do, then anyone can lose, that's for sure. So we're still in the game, and we're still focused.
What kind of, I mean, we're talking a little bit about, you know, a meta shift and talking a little bit as well about the direction that things might go in. What kind of meta do you guys feel the most comfortable in? I mean, you guys as a team, I mean, have the most experience, at least in my opinion. I mean, playing together for the longest period of time. And I mean, you guys have seen a lot of these metas as a team. What kind of thing did you, what kind of meta did you guys feel really comfortable in the past?
Basically, any meta that's not based around resing, we feel the strongest at. I think that our biggest strength on the Abjured is our mechanical skill when it comes to downing enemies first and staying alive. And I think that in any meta where it's not heavily focused on reviving, we'll be our strongest at, 100%. And I think it's looking like it's going to be what it's going to be. So we're going to be in a very strong point when the abilities for players to revive each other is much less. So we're actually looking really forward to the next meta. If it goes in the way we imagine it's going to,
Right.
You know, anything can happen. Not all the changes have been announced, but we do notice a really heavy nerf to Bunker Mesmer reviving. So Bunker Mesmer reviving is going to be really reduced. Revenant, obviously, with quickness and is going to be reduced as well, too. So we definitely think that Mesmer Revenant spam will be less sustainable, for sure. So I feel like that strategy is going to definitely fall off a bit. And people that can get downs and stay alive and cleave bodies are really going to be at an advantage. And that's things like Necro and NG what they really are strong at as well too.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, guys, like just because the Mesmer and Revenant reviving is really nerfed, like there's still really good ways to revive people, like that don't involve quickness. So
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in the past a lot. I mean, there's been a lot of times where you see the resing still at a very high potential, and it's just because it was so overpowered at the moment doesn't mean it's
yeah,
not going to still be viable in the future. But you were talking a little bit about how the meta might adjust to something that you feel more comfortable with in terms of, I guess, I'll use the word tankiness. That of course, with the amulets involving 3-stat combinations that have both toughness, vitality being removed, do you think? You were already saying that you think it will go in a certain direction. Do you think we might see more of like an assassin meta, or do you think people will try to go more towards bruiser? Or do you think it'll be a mix of both, a little bit of support?
Bruiser for sure. Bruiser always prevails when people
Right.
are not able to get rezzed, because bruisers usually have the best like offense to defense ratio, the best mechanical advantage typically. Assassins, they function like in a very all or nothing way. Bruisers are more reliable, so we definitely see a bruiser meta coming into play here, just because we're removing things like soldiers and implementing paladin amulet, which is basically still toughness and vitality, just in a less severe amount. Like right now, a soldier's is 900 toughness, 900 vitality. Paladin will be 560 toughness, 560 vitality. It's still super sufficient enough to be tanky enough to be able to do damage and bruise properly. And we think that the meta will definitely head towards like either Condi or Power Bruiser builds. But either way, things will die, and things will die relatively fast without any like healing power toughness combinations. So Celestial is going to be out of off the table, so we definitely won't see any extended fights. It's going to be all about the mechanical skill and who can handle downstate better and get cleaves and stomps. So we think it's actually very exciting for us. We're
I mean,
looking
the thing
forward to it.
about bruisers that usually makes them work, I mean, looking back at the Elementalist meta, back at DD, basically any build that's really used the Celestial Amulet to full effect is something that
Yeah.
uses a lot of boons, things like Engineer, Dagger Ellie, even, the current Tempest, things like that. Mesmer even at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
are you worried that as a bruiser, as someone that has played a lot of bruiser in the past, if you're in that bruiser role with the availability of corrupts now, especially with Necromancer, a lot those two changes with corrupt boon as well as I believe it's the Scepter auto that also got changed, where they're going to have a lot more availability of corrupt.
Yeah.
They already have. I mean, Nas has already been playing around with the build that's insane with corruption. Are you worried, maybe even a little bit, about bruiser's state if people start using that as a possible counter?
We welcome other players to try and play Necro. Give it your best shot.
True.
So with that in mind, we do think Necromancer will also have a tougher time getting up. So when you go down as a Necro, it's pretty much lights out for you. Like at this
Right.
point, the cleave will be real, and the fact that Necromancers get tunnel vision pretty easily still does pose a problem. I don't think Necromancer, it's just going to be the ultimate focus target to focus Necro, because they don't have bunker messers to revive them instantly. And in this meta currently, Necros get focused so hard, they have Revenants training them everywhere. And we're going to add Thief to that mix too. We're going to add Thief to the list of Revenants of people chasing around the Necro and trying to down him. And there's not going to be a Mesmer there to clean up. So there's not going to be any like saving throw for the Necro when he goes down. So that's going to be a really different dynamic. It's going to be all a game of cat and mouse with the Necro trying to kite and the Revenants and Thieves and everything trying to chase him down. It's going to be really centered around the Necromancer, I think. So, yeah, and if any really awesome revives can come out on the Necro, that's going to be a huge play, not like expected. Like, oh, and then Bunker Master gets him up, proceed. It's going to be like, oh, and a res actually happened, which is actually very rare to see happen, and
Right.
then the Necromancer can wipe the whole team or something like that. It's going to be a bigger turning point, which is pretty cool.
All right. Well, any last words or shout outs to your fans out there?
Shoutouts, everyone watching Twitch, I'll say once again, and thanks for watching the Pro League, and we hope for a great finish and a great season 2.
All right. Well, good luck, and we will see you next week for your matchup. That was Chase, from the Abjured, joining us there for a little bit of preview on the future of their team. But looking at our first matchup, Team PZ up against Zero Counterplay, we kind of elaborated a little bit on that earlier. Anything to add on that end?
Not too much at the moment. I still think that PZ is probably going to be taking that one. Chase said it himself. There's not too much of a worry in that regard for them, although they still do have to win every single one of these games. So I mean, they still have to be on point for every single one of these last 2 matches and make sure that they take these home, or else Spooky is going to be taking their place. So.
Yeah, as you said, if they do not win these next 2, Spooky will, if assuming they can win their final 2, they will be going instead of PZ. So all PZ needs to do is take care of business today against Zero Counterplay, next week against Easy Peasy. But Zero Counterplay, as we talked with Moobs earlier, bringing on Cyndaquil, another member as well. So I'm looking forward to these guys going at it.
Yeah, I think their other member is Eternity, if I'm not mistaken, coming in for Q-Who. So, I mean, I think that'll be what they wind up using. Definitely some interesting subs there. I mean, certainly always have a chance at an upset, but we'll have to see what happens. PZ looking to take this one, though, so they can go to the season finals.
All right, well, guys, we are going to head to a break. It's going to be a little bit longer of a break due to the fact that the Abjured Apex game did not actually come to us. So we're going to head to a break, guys, and when we're back, we will have that first matchup between Team PZ and Zero Counterplay. Don't go anywhere.
You're no ordinary gamer. These are no ordinary gaming desktops. With a commitment to quality, uncompromising performance, and jaw-dropping design, Alienware pushes the limits to bring you the gaming experience you crave, because you demand nothing less than the ultimate gaming experience.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Guild Wars 2 ESL Pro League for North America. We have our first matchup of the evening ready for you. That will be Zero Counterplay up against Team PZ.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a pretty interesting match. I mean, Zero Counterplay has, I mean, we said it a bunch of times today. We've said it a bunch of weeks before. Really struggled. I mean, they haven't had any sort of real. I mean, they've made a little bit of progress actually. Last week, and now they're going to be kind of stifling a little bit with a new roster. But you never know if they could come out a little bit better. They did just scrim with it for the first time just a couple of moments ago. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, we have no idea what to expect with this one.
Especially with Cyndaquil coming in along with Eternity, that has been confirmed. But Eternity's been around for quite some time, so he's not rusty, I wouldn't say. Cyndaquil, though, been back for a few weeks maybe, so might have a little rust to shake off. But going up against a top dog, potentially even going to the season finals, Team PZ, they've got a lot of weight on their shoulders coming into this match, wondering how bad it could potentially be if it doesn't go in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, they have to win this game, and they have to win the next one. If at any point they drop a game and Spooky doesn't, then they're not going to the season finals anymore. And at this point, it's looking like PZ is going to go. So, I mean, it's certainly in PZ's favor. It's certainly in PZ's hands at the moment where teams are going to be winding up, going to the finals.
What do you think that going into this match, Zero Counterplay needs to look out for? I mean, we don't exactly know their composition either. We don't exactly know. I mean, PZ would probably pretty much know what they're going to be running. And
right.
As we mentioned earlier, Muffins and K-Pud, kind of the two people to watch out for. But on top of that, you still got Zeus got to control. But what do you think Zero Counterplay needs to do to potentially look for an upset or even make it a game for that matter?
I mean, certainly the fact that they have the opportunity of getting on Temple is definitely in their favor. They have a map that they can kind of stay away from that 5-point play, and that's certainly going to be what PZ is going to be trying to do, is forcing them into situations where they're going to be able to get across the map with that double mesmer, and you never know what they might try to do in terms of map plays with rotations when those buffs come around at 11:30 and 8:30. So it's up to Zero Counterplay to see how they want to play that and see if they can put it in their odds. But at this stage, I mean, PZ is a team that's so comfortable with what they're running that the only thing that they have to adjust is how they play on a particular map versus a particular team. So whereas with Zero Counterplay, they have not only the same thing playing on a certain map against a certain team, they also have to figure out how to play with each other, because, I mean, once again, they've only scrimmed once.
Yeah, and even so, I mean, scrimming once, that could be said, that's probably one of the first times they're scrimming for that matter. Even with this new roster, I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform against PZ, and even in their next week's matchup, which won't be anything easy for them either. But as Moobs had mentioned, 3 of them looking to stick around, Hypno, himself, and Aerox being a really good thief in the past,
right.
Looking forward to possibly Thief being really viable once again and bringing Cyndaquil into this, and possibly Eternity. This is definitely a trial period for those two. Looking forward, I know I talked to Cyndaquil a little bit. He wants to get into the competitive scene of Pro League. He wants to. He's looking for a team. He's trying to. And this is an opportunity. A team that's already in it doesn't have to, is definitely going to face a relegation match or something like that, but they don't have to work their way up a leaderboard or anything for that.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about that Challenger League. They don't have to worry about making sure that they watch their MMR and climb their way up the ladder, like you were talking about. Cyndaquil is a player that's been in the circuit. You talk about Eternity, he's been in the circuit as well, playing a lot of those AG tournaments. So, I mean, yeah, these are two guys that are very seasoned. Of course, they're going to have to shake off a little rust. Maybe not so much Eternity as you were talking about, but certainly Cyndaquil. And we mentioned a little bit before Synda's faults, where, I mean, personally, what I saw, at least remembering back in the days of the old ESL Go Wars when Synda was playing still on Cunning Stunts, that Cyndaquil kind of, in terms of rotation, really kind of needed a little bit of guidance in that regard. And of course, mechanically, he was not really the best, but certainly was able to hold his own. So now he's going to be playing his main class, which was the Engineer, and that's where he felt the most comfortable. So, I mean, at least he has that, and Engineer is definitely in a good spot with Scrapper at the moment. So I give it to him. I think he's going to be playing pretty well. I mean, you look at other players that have had to either shake off the rust or kind of break into the scene, just initially at all. I mean, Feyav and Steel, of course, are the first two that come to mind. And then you talk about other players as well, like from Final Form with Sup Cutie and, of course, blah, 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 and everything like that, that some of these players have really kind of adjusted rather quickly. So, I mean, for all we know, Cyndaquil and Eternity could very well shape up into very decent players, not only throughout the rest of these seasons, Season 1 and Season 2, but maybe even today.
And looking, like you said, Cyndaquil actually is on his Engineer, and Aerox over on the Thief, moves on his Guardian for that matter. I mean, those are their main classes, and I look
Right.
forward to. And that's something you got to kind of take into consideration. Is your main class, even though it might not be the most optimal, is it better than your secondary class, which could be potentially far better than that?
Well, I think in this situation, yes. And the reason I say that is because along with Final Form, this is a team that hasn't really proven itself to be that flexible. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, they haven't really been able to adjust that fast. They've never been able to really get that going. But at the same time, I mean, they are pretty decent at their classes, at their respective classes. Aerox is certainly one of the better thieves in the game. I mean, definitely in my personal top 5 in terms of NA thieves. So, I mean, they definitely have a decent roster in that regard. We'll have to see if it'll work out for them, but I like it a little bit better just because of their lack of flexibility with the roster.
And that is definitely true. I mean, just looking at what we have for both of these teams here, taking a look at the red team here, that would be a zero counterplay for that matter. Aerox is on his thief, moves on that Guardian, Cynical on the Engineer. Their main class. His Engineer is actually very, very good in this meta, but the thief and Guardian definitely considered one of the low on the lower spectrum of that matter. But why don't we go ahead and dive into some of these builds, starting with the red team here.
All right, looking first here at Aerox, going to be going with the staff build today, actually running with that staff short bow, going with Marauder Amulet and Daredevil runes, actually going with Deadly Arts, Trickery, and Daredevil there. So definitely a build that we've, I believe, seen before with Cade actually on Spooky. If not, maybe, you know, a couple of minor differences, but for the most part, the effect is the same there. Moving on to Cyndaquil there, which is going to be their first of 2 new players on this roster playing for them today. He's going to be going with the Hammer Scrapper here, going with Marauder Amulet, Durability runes, actually going with Air Blood, so a lot of potential damage that's going to be coming out of this guy. Alchemy and Vengeance and Scrapper for his setup. Next up, we have Moobs actually going back to the Dragon Hunter here, and that's going to be with Sword Focus and Longbow. Marauder Amulet running with Rune of the Pack, actually, so this is definitely kind of interesting. I mean, for the most part, you don't really see Dragon Hunters running Rune of the Pack successfully all that much because, I mean, at the moment, it's just so easy to counter them with the Elementalist, and we actually don't even see PZ running an Elementalist, but I mean, personally, I would because of how easy it is to kind of counter them with that. I mean, you have Swirling Winds, you have Reflex, Magnetic Aura, of course, is another thing that you can share with that powerful Aura build. So it's definitely interesting to see, and also on top of that, you have the problem of, you know, getting trained, and that becomes an issue when you don't have something like Rune of the Trapper or something available to you. But nonetheless, he's going to be running Virtues and Valor and Dragon Hunter. And next up, we do have Eternity, the second of those 2 players we were talking about that are going to be new to this roster. And he's going to be running Sword, Shield, Staff, running with Sentinel Amulet, one of the amulets that actually is going to be removed come the 26th. And he's going to be running it with Rune of Durability, a rune that won't be here in the 26th, and going with Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer there.
And it looks like we're just waiting on the 5th member to go ahead and get in here, but let's take a look at Team PZ over on the blue. First up, we do have Zeus running the first of 2 Mesmers. He's going to be taking that Sword, Shield, but the Staff. His Amulet and runes are both going to be removed as well with the Mercy and Soldier Amulet. He is taking Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer going to be taking that Gravity Well for his Elite. Java is going to be that second of the Mesmers. Will be running with the Staff, Sword, Shield. Going to be running the same thing we saw with Zeus with the Rune of Mercy and Soldier's Amulet. He'll be taking the Chaos, Inspiration, and Chronomancer as well, along with that Gravity Well. Next up, K-Pod, first of 2 of those Revenants. He's going to be taking the Power build with the Staff, Sword, Shield, Rune of the Scholar, Marauder Amulet, taking up Devastation, Invocation, and Herald for himself. Marvin going to be on the Engineer for this team. Very good at this class. He's going to be taking the Hammer with the Marauder Amulet, taking up the Holbrecht runes. Will be running Inventions, Alchemy, and Scrapper. And finally, Muffins will be that second Revenant. He's going to be taking the Condition build with the Sword, Shield, Mace, Axe. Going to be taking Durability with Viper's Amulet, taking Corruption, Retribution, and Herald. So nothing really new on the side of Team PZ, but something we've seen kind of worked into the play of both teams. I mean, just this team in particular, and some other teams as well in the previous weeks, is that Rune of Mercy, and it helps so much. I mean, you don't really, it's really good, but that's on top of the fact that Mesmers are already really good at getting reses.
Yeah, I mean, you have the resistance if you're running that build. You also have the quickness that you can get on demand with the shatters. So, I mean, it's certainly very easy to do it. I mean, you can also pop invulns if you want to. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for them to get those reses, and certainly the Mercy runes do benefit them as well, because not only is it going to benefit the resing speed, but it's also going to be allowing them to you know, resurrect them with more HP as well. So it's definitely a really good option for them, especially in this current res meta. But looking now at Hypno, the 5th player here for Team Zero counterplay, he's going to be going with the Revenant here, actually going with Staff, Sword, Shield, Marauder, Amulet, Rune of the Holdbrack, going with Invocation, Devastation, and Herald.
Kind of expected from Hypno. He's gotten to be very good at the Revenant over the past few months here, but we are just waiting on these players to go ahead and join up and get this game #1 of the day underway. PZ really needing a victory here if they want to continue on their trek to the season finals. Will need to win out here at the end of the season, assuming Spooky does as well. But you know, we had mentioned we anticipated Team PZ to take this set, but Zero Counterplay got a couple new members. Looking forward to seeing how they play. I think that both Eternity and Cynical are fun players to watch. You know, Eternity, who played with the team called E-Dream in the past, they were a very fun team to watch, and he was a good, you know, big part of that team. So really looking forward to seeing how these guys are going to be faring up against Team PZ today.
Yeah, and Zero Counterplay has an opportunity to take this map here, and the reason I say that is because you know, blue team is playing those 2 Resmers, and they're playing kind of a composition that definitely wants to stay together. I mean, they're looking for team fights. They're looking for any situation where they can force 2v2s, 3v3s, something like that. And if Zero Counterplay can kind of string them out and make sure that they're kind of playing off those 5 points, maybe forcing some portals out and stuff like that, they could probably catch some of these guys off guard. Certainly, Aerox has, you know, a favored matchup in some instances against K-Pud. You know, he's running that Marauder Amulet build with Rune of the Scholar, so he does have an opportunity to take him in some of those 1v1s perhaps, but we'll have to see. It really comes down to if Zero Counterplay can play the map right, which Zero Counterplay has yet to kind of prove that they can do.
All right, well, game #1 on the Temple of the Silent Storm going to start up here. Aerox heading to that temple. We have Java going to be going over to the altar. A little bit of a stealth play perhaps coming out here from Cyndaquil, and it looks like both teams looking to cross. Actually, no, red team just looking to defend, but Muffins might he looks like he is going to get right past him, and Aerox not going to be able to get him up with that first cap for his team.
It looks like K-Pud going to be moving into that midpoint there, and he's going to be up against a Mesmer, so that's not going to be doing all too much anytime soon. But already Hypno almost able to take down Zeus, and Zeus actually goes down already. So here we have Zero Counterplay with a pretty early kill actually already, and we are going to be seeing PZ come in here, and they might actually go for a res, but we see a lot of support going down once again. Aerox trying to get a lot of damage on it, but Java is going to... Ooh, they get the stomp there with the function gyro, and Zeus is going to be out. However, they are going to be trading potentially Eternity in the meantime, as he was out there all by himself.
Well, they 3v1 that point at the mid, and what did they get in their return? They got the kills, they secured the cap at their home, but not going to be able to get a decap. We saw the portal come out there from Java. He's just going to go right back to that node. Blue team didn't manage to come up with the cap at the gate, but they will have respawn. Red team rather having respawn is going to get back up into this fight, but they're missing a key component right now. Eternity coming off a respawn.
Yeah, but he's going to be able to get in there. All they have to do is make sure that they stay alive. Cyndaquil's taking the most pressure here, but he's going to be able to get healthy really quick as he is playing that scrapper role. We're actually going to be seeing Eternity, I think, leaving a portal actually over onto the temple there. I'm not really sure.
Well, they took down K-Pud at the mid node, but he's going to get right back up. There's a lot of Connie pressure now onto Hypno. He's the main target. Look at the moves in the downstate. Cyndaquil could follow shortly. He's in that Elixir S. We are going to see Aerox taken down as well. Hypno might follow in pursuit. We could see a potentially a 3 or 4-man wipe. Cyndaquil knows he needs to get out of this one. Doesn't even want to risk it. Goes out the wrong way, if you ask me.
These are the kind of mistakes actually that that Zero Counterplay makes on a very, I mean, they make it very often where this is, I mean, you need to play the map correctly. There was no reason for Eternity to be running up to Temple and then just standing there. I mean, you have that Mesmer that you have to kind of worry about, but all you have to really do is just leave a portal and then head on back. That's all you have to do, or maybe switch someone out. But they needed the Mesmer in that fight. I mean, Mesmer is all about that group utility, and Eternity is really just kind of playing it in a role where he's just walking purposefully into situations where he's completely outnumbered, and that's not going to be where the Mesmer is most effective.
We've seen in previous games before where teams don't have their Mesmers at those team fights, and you can tell the difference from when they do and when they don't. It's so much, he's a key component to the team. We actually just saw the stomp coming out onto moves, and they're not going to be able to make any headway at that mid node. At this point in time, Zero Counterplay need to regroup, make sure they can hold off this push that's going to be coming out here from Team PZ if they want to try and hold on in this game.
They do have an opportunity here in the form of K-Pud being at 20% HP. It looks like he's going to be able to use his Glint heal in just a matter of time, though, so he might actually be okay. He is going to be rolling into this fight, though, with not too much left other than that Glint heal. He does have his shield block as well, so he's going to be actually probably pretty good since they didn't focus him in time. In the meantime, though, Hypno is taking a little bit of pressure from that precision strike coming from K-Pud, and they're going to be focusing a lot of pressure down on him, actually. And this fight is actually not something that I would really like to see Zero Counterplay participating in so much. I mean, talking about it a little bit beforehand, that, I mean, in a situation where they're forcing these team fights, I give it to PZ every single time. I mean, they have pressure that they can put out. Dragon Hunter certainly very good in those situations, but, and we do see a downstate coming out already, but they are going to be trading that for Aerox, and I mean,
this is rough. I mean, they've got so much cleave on the side of the red team, but even so, K-Pud's down, Marvin's down, Zeus might follow. What looked like a lost team fight or Zero Counterplay could turn out to be in their favor here, taking out 2 members, potentially 3. It looks like they're not giving up just yet on Zeus. Remember, that stillness buff is up. We do see Muffins actually going for it right now. No one's contesting. Cyndaquil trying for the attack. It looks like he will stop him. Aerox, a really good rotation, going to that gate, going to be able to pick up the decap, and this is Zero Counterplay's chance to try and get something going in this game.
Zero Counterplay just shouldn't have won that fight. I mean, not to put anything against them, and just compositionally, I mean, they shouldn't have won that. There was 2
yet they
Mesmers
still have it.
PZ.
Java is still in this fight. They never actually cleaned up the node, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Java's going to be able to keep this alive for a little bit longer here. We are going to be seeing moves entering the foray, though, so he's going to be able to kind of keep this a little bit alive, but his teammate actually is just going to be leaving him, so I actually expect Java to be starting some progression and taking this node away from moves in just a matter of time. Once he gets a couple of cooldowns, he's able to get some staying power, but in the meantime, Muffins is going to be falling out, and actually Zero Counterplay once again picking up another kill. So Zero Counterplay actually looking the best I've ever personally even seen them at this point, and actually kind of getting a couple kills here and there, and it's really kind of gotten them a long way.
It really has. We're going to see a decap now from Hypno. Really good rotation, knowing they didn't want to plus that top fight because Marvin was not going to die anytime soon. Java was still at that alter node. He could have came back if he needed help, so that was a really good rotation coming out from Hypno. Now he's going to be in a 1v1 against Muffins before he got the cap. But, you know, the cap at the gate node coming out there from Zeus. Both teams with the 1 cap. We do have that Tranquility buff up in about 1 minute now. It's going to be a huge play to see what teams go for. Probably a stalemate, but in the meantime, Hypno needs some help, need rotations over to this temple. Otherwise, we're going to see another 2 cap coming out from PZ.
Yeah, and they've really kind of struggled in making sure that they string these guys out. PZ, I mean, look at the map at any given time. They're all together. They're bunched up. They're not really taking any, they're not really getting anything out of that. What they really need to do is just kind of rotate 2 people into it and then send a 3v1 somewhere else and then just kind of bunker down on 1 point, and then maybe they might get some headway in terms of the map. But, I mean, because they aren't, they're losing a lot of map control, and despite the fact that they are getting some kills here and there, and they're actually staying in the game in that regard with the team fights, which still I have to reiterate, I don't think they technically should be, because in the team fights I actually still give it to PZ because of the fact that they're running a team, like a team-based composition with those 2 Resmers that, you know, they're still able to stay in it, but because of the fact that they aren't getting any map control, they are going to be probably losing this game.
Noobs is going to need support in that he cannot afford to get 2v1 in the open. That's just rough for him, especially against these Revenants, and it looks like K-Pud's trying to go for a decap here. Going to get caught out by Eternity. We did see that stillness buff go in favor of Team PZ. It is going to be back up once again, Cyndaquil and Java in a 1v1 for the Tranquility buff. Not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and no team actually looking for the stillness buff. I'm very surprised that especially Zero Counterplay now, they've got the cap, they're not going for it. They've got 3v2 going on at the mid node instead of sending Aerox or something who needs to, at this point, in my opinion, rotate to either stillness or get the decap. They might actually pick up a kill here, and it's not going to happen, especially with Java getting here. Now Aerox needs to bail out of this fight.
There's so much kill potential on the side of Zero Counterplay, and this is where I think they actually feel the most comfortable. And we were talking a little bit about it before with Apex, where they feel kind of, or sorry, not Apex, but the Absurd, where they feel most comfortable in a meta where they could potentially play bruisers and just kind of focus on a lot of the downstate control. They're really good at that. And any time where they can, you know, kind of force away the reses. But with Zero Counterplay, I think they feel most comfortable in opportunities where they can just burst people down. I mean, that's where they're really looking like they have opportunities. They're getting wins in some of these team fights where Moobs has the opportunity to line his damage up with Aerox and with Hypno, and they just blow people up.
Well, they will. I mean, from the looks of it, it's not too bad of a game for Zero Counterplay. This is better than we've ever seen them, to be honest. We're going to put up over 200 points on Team PZ on the Temple of the Silent Storm, but our second map for some Niflhel, we'll have to see what they try to do to adapt to this kind of approach that Team PZ has put out on them. And this is, we saw multiple fights that, as you mentioned earlier, it didn't look like Zero Counterplay probably should have won those fights, but they came out on top. Mistakes from PZ, really good execution, I want to say, from Zero Counterplay helped them get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see actually the 3-cap being forced out by Team PZ right now. Zero Counterplay going to be suffering the losses of that one over the next couple of seconds, probably into their loss here, as Hypno does go down as well. Looks like Zeus is going to be leaving a clone over there just to make sure that he goes down. He actually does get the stomp off, so that is going to be 500 to 203. PZ taking it 1-0 up over Zero Counterplay in the first match.
Wasn't quite what we expected from either team. I mean, Team PZ kind of slipped up, if you ask me, in a few of those team fights.
Yeah,
it felt like they should have won over Zero Counterplay, but Zero Counterplay, as we mentioned before, a new approach, a little bit different of a team. I really liked what I saw from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely like the new roster. They feel like more of a team, and I mean, granted, they haven't had a lot of opportunities to really kind of get any kind of cohesion or anything like that. So, I mean, over time, I think that this is the roster that they might want to move forward with. I mean, granted, the two players that they lost there with Kyuhu and Aerodynamic are still really good players. Kyuhu made a couple of really, really bad mistakes in terms of composition, over the past 7 weeks, and perhaps even in the qualifier, if I remember correctly, running that Greatsword Condi build. But, you can't, I mean, I guess you could blame him for that, but I mean, you can't blame him all too much, and he certainly has done his part for this team. Aerodynamic, of course, one of the really, really solid elementalists in North America right now. But yeah, this roster seems to be a little bit more effective. I think they're doing pretty well, and we'll have to see what happens in this next map, but I honestly think that PZ has the favor in this map, more so even than the last map.
And something to note, you say, to talk about Kyuhu and whatnot, it's not even necessarily about how great all 5 players are mechanically. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that these players might get along better, might have more, better in team fights together, just understand each other a little bit more. Even with one team practice, it looked like a whole new Zero kind of play. Of course, they lost by 300 on Temple of the Silent Storm to a team that's potentially going to the season finals. So you look at it that way, and look at some of their other matchups against teams who aren't quite as good as Team PZ. You got to give them credit on that one. So I look forward to seeing what their approach will be on the Force of Niflhel, and if they're going to be able to pull out a victory here. Maybe not, maybe so, but it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do going into this game. And something you had touched on earlier was Moobs' effect, how well he did against their composition. They don't have an elementalist on the side of Team PZ, which could ultimately make Moobs effectiveless to run.
Yeah, I actually like PZ's old composition in this matchup a little bit more, where they were running the elementalist over the scrapper, and I think Marvin actually is a little bit more comfortable on that Mesmer as well, and I think that all signs point towards making that adjustment. But either way, I think PZ still has the favor, and I think that they're going to be pulling away with a W after this map here. But I definitely still like the other setup a little bit more. However, at the same time, you also have to kind of worry a little bit about the kill potential of that Thief and of that Guardian together. So I guess that's something that they're a little bit worried about when putting in something like an Elementalist, which of course has a little less staying power than an Engineer, especially with that Sneak Gyro there. So I mean, it could go either way. I would go with the old comp personally. I think they're more comfortable with it, but they're still going to probably pull a W out of this one.
More than likely, but Zero Counterplay definitely has a few things to prove after the past 5 weeks really haven't been anything too special for them. And as Moves, we talked to him earlier, he expected a 4th, 5th place finish at the end of the season, but that's not going to be happening. And making changes necessary to going into a season 2, and they're definitely looking to do that. But game number 2 on the Force of Niflhel going to be commencing here in a matter of moments. As we look at the opening splits for both these teams, it looks like a few crosshairs going to be coming out here. Let's take a look back on the map at the beach here and see what's going on. Stealth play on the side of both of them. It looks like 4 coming out for the red team. Nice lead from it. No, not really going to do a whole lot though, as Muffins and Zeus will make it through clean.
Yeah, and everybody is going to be kind of rotating over towards those side nodes. It looks like a lot of movement over there towards the mine, actually, where we are already seeing Muffins on point. Looks like a little bit of some damage set up on the side of Zero Counterplay. They're going to try to take out Zeus and Muffins rather quickly here.
Like that.
And Blue Team getting that cap over at the henge. They were in a 2v1. You see Zeus. Oh, the stomp going to connect and take out Muffin. Zeus going to throw down the portal, get himself back through, but it looks like, Ipno went through with him with the unrelenting assault. Very surprised Zeus didn't actually decide to go back through, knowing there was 2 members over there. Didn't want that spike potential from Boobs and Aerox, and we will see the red team claim that mine node as well.
they might actually have an opportunity in taking Zeus out. Zeus, of course, is going to be forced to keep on the move, so he won't be able to get the full benefit of some of his wells, and of course the no field as well, but he does have the support of his teammates there, trying to put some pressure down onto Hypno, who does have to kind of play a little bit slower now, a little bit more defensively, as he is getting pressured quite a lot, and now it looks like he is going to be rotating over towards that mid node, trying to hold on to that one. But Zero counterplay actually now with a little bit of a lead for the first time, I believe, all season.
Well, even so, the Handput is on the Chieftain right now. Oh, good knockback coming out there from Hypno. They're going to take 2 members down on the side. They pick up the Chieftain kill. Get a member back up into the fight. Java now under a lot of pressure as well. It will Hypno fall when he's going in for the cleave. It looks like he could potentially, he's going to go into the downstate here. Airlock's not going to be able to do anything. I think that was a huge misplay on the side of Zero Counterplay. Had 2 members down and really weren't able to come up with the kill there.
Yeah, and it comes down to that res play. I mean, if you make sure that you have a lot of control over the res game, over the downstates, then you're going to be able to get that. I mean, they had 2 people who were down there, and they wound up losing that fight, and now they're going to have to rotate out of mid because of a couple of misplays. They should have been forcing a lot more pressure. They should have had someone to focus the stomp. I mean, they have an engineer in there with Cyndaquil. They could have focused the function gyro, gave it some stat, and just focus some pressure down with everybody, and they might have been able to get a stomp out of that one and then maybe move on.
And Zero Counterplay, a good rotation earlier from Cyndaquil, met his match with the Revenant K-Putt, but you also see Marvin in the area, able to pick up the cap. Big burst actually coming out there from Aerox, looking to take down K-Putt. He's going to fall down himself. Oh, 517 health remaining for him. He's actually going to get out of this one alive. He's going to leave his teammate Cyndaquil in the dust. He will be going into the downstate back at the keep. We actually see Hypno in a 1v1 going to portal back to my point. Looks like his team needs a little bit of help. A lot of action going on over here.
Yeah, the mine point is going to be a huge point of contention for these teams, as we are going to be seeing actually Java taking a lot of heat now at about 25% HP, dropping a little bit here. It looks like Move is going to try to continue the pressure with his teammate Hypno there, and Java is going to finally go down here. It looks like they are going to try to res him, and they are going to get it there finally, as they are going to be able to manage that. However, they are kind of low here. They did force a couple of cooldowns out with that res, and now Java's going to be portaling back with his team back over to the point, getting the decap there, and now running towards the full cap, as they already do have 2 in their favor.
That was a very impressive play there from PZ. We actually see Marvin looking to possibly die in this 1v2 over here at the hench. The decap will be picked up there by Zero Counterplay. He's going to be forced out of node. We'll see the 2 caps still prevail here for Team PZ, but back at the keep, as you said, that portal back, it didn't look like Zero Counterplay wanted to deal with it. They just tried to push to the midpoint, try and take advantage of the numbers, but haven't been able to get anything going in their favor at this node just yet.
Looks like PZ, yeah, still has a good amount of control here, focusing pressure on Moves. Moves is going to be a pretty decent person to pressure. We talked about it a little bit before with that pack rune. Of course, he doesn't really have too many opportunities to really get out of there, but they've done a good job in keeping Moves alive. He's not really received as much pressure as I personally think I would have given him in this setup here, but now sitting at about 50% HP, they are going to be going for him. He's going to be teleporting around, trying to stay alive, and just hoping that he can hold on long enough to maybe see Marvin go down at the same time. They're going to go for the res here, and it looks like Zeus trying for the stomp as well, but Moves does get back up, and now it's going to be Marvin who's going to be in the downstate and actually taken out.
For PC, Java's so low, Muffins is so low as well, does have his heal. Oh my goodness, they got lucky to only lose 1 member at that fight, if you ask me. It looked like that was a huge bomb coming out there from Zero Counterplay, who actually lost Aerox, potentially Move as well. Does have renewed focus up in about 5 seconds. Is he able to hold on? It doesn't look like it is, and it looks like it's going to be turned back in the favor of Team PC here.
Zero Counterplay is going to get their teammate up, though, and just as Muffins does go down, they're going to definitely be able to get him back up. Moves needs to make sure that he gets that pull-off, does get it onto Muffins, and then throws him right back with that knockback on the longbow. He's going to try to hold them there. Muffins still taking a lot of pressure. The burst comes out once again, and they got Muffins down once again. It looks like they tried to get a stomp, but did not actually manage to get it. PZ going for the res, and they are going to get that one as well.
We saw Moves kind of get caught down below, wasn't able to do a whole lot there, but blue team we're claiming the 2 cap with Marvin coming out from respawn, going to grab that hench for free. Now Hypno in the downstate. Eternity is very low on cooldowns. He's going to have to let his teammate die. Aerox, of course, picking up that gap for his team, but they're slowly falling behind about a 100-point deficit over 5 minutes in here.
Yeah, they have an opportunity though. Moves once again taking so much pressure. Has that RF, is going to be able to go ahead and get some blocks and some heals for himself now. Needs to do it quickly though, so that he can get very, very healthy, force a couple of people off him perhaps, and then focus some pressure down on Muffins, who's getting incredibly low. Zeus is already in the downstate here. They need to get these guys a little bit lower. Focus the pressure now down onto the downstate, and they have it now where PZ has pulled off. It looks like Eternity is going to be leaving this one. Muffin's going to be going down as well. So once again, Zero Counterplay making some moves here for the first time.
I want to give credit to Hypno there. He barely saw Marvin make a move from the hench to the mine point coming off of respawn through the side gate. Really good play from him, able to catch up with him with that Shiro stance. The 2-cap once again coming out here on this side of Team Zero Counterplay, but they need to make a move for the spawn here. Looks like they're going to do that, going to get it a little bit after the Chieftain kill coming out there from K-Pud. Regardless, we will see a bit of a regroup coming out from Team PZ. Marvin looking to make a move towards the mine will be met by Cyndaquil. Leave him in that 1v1 that might stalemate for quite some time, and leave your team to the 4v4 at the mid node.
Yeah, definitely would like to see that Guardian going over to the mid fight in any situation where he's going to be, able to be picked off by the Revenants. I just don't like that. It looks like he is going to be trying to focus some pressure down onto Java, who's going to be taken down to about 50%. It looks like they're actually going to be making most of their move towards that mine point, just kind of spread them thin. Which actually I kind of like Zero Counterplay in that setup. However, PZ does have the favor of being pretty tanky across the board, so I mean it could go either way at this point. They have to make sure they look out for a lot of that burst that's going to be coming out over here actually on the mine point where Moobs and Hypno are together, and they're focusing a lot of that pressure onto Java, where he goes down already here.
That was a huge play coming out there on the side of Zero Counterplay. At least able to get a lot of cooldowns out from Team PZ. Of course, that kill not going to come right away. K-Pod, on the other hand, is looking pretty low at the mid node. We actually see him in the downstate. Aerox going to take him out. Zeus probably going to be able to pick up this res, more than likely Eternity in the area. Able to keep Aerox alive. This is a pretty good 2v2 actually going on at this midpoint, but back at the mine, we actually see the decap come out, but Muffin's in the downstate. We see the quick to stop coming out from Java. It will not connect on moves. It looks like he actually got stopped. He's going to get back up. Not a lot of cleave come out onto the members. There are 2 members down, 3 members down for Team PZ. Could Zero Counterplay make something of this?
And Cyndaquil, who we talked about before, has already come back and proven that he's ready to play at this level. The reason that actually worked out, Cyndaquil putting up the sneak gyro just in time to save it from that quick stomp, and actually Cinda making the huge play to put his team back into this game against a team that was expected before this match to just have a free ticket right on through to the season finals.
We have been talking time after time. PZ's got this. They're going into the finals, but Zero Counterplay will give them a good match here. They will more than likely take the lead unless we see a huge move. There's the move coming out there from PZ at the mid node. There isn't a whole lot in the area for Zero Counterplay. Eternity needs to get on point. He can't afford. He's going to die. It looks like he's still on point, but regardless, the decap will come out, and they are still down about 40 points here.
Yeah, they need to win this fight. This is a big moment for them. If they're able to pull this one out, if Zero Counterplay can win this fight, then they might actually have a shot at taking this game against PZ here. And it looks like Eternity is just struggling here, and he's probably going to be going down once again. But his well did just come back up off a cooldown, so he is going to be able to get a little bit of heal. But he walks right off it with that stealth now and forcing himself out of the fight completely. It looks like they're going to be not seeing Java at all.
Well,
Aerox much the same, so they are going to be trading those points, as Eternity still is not looking too healthy at all in this fight. Meanwhile, PZ looking really strong.
There's 3 decap nodes around the area, and it looks like Moob's going to be taken down. They're going in for the res. Should be able to get him back up before anything significant happens. We'll see the kills come out, but Chieftain and Swanee are back up. We've got 5:30 remaining in this game. Eternity once again might be taken down. It looks like so. Zeus going in for the quick stop will pick it up for his team.
Yeah, this actually could really come down to those boss kills. It looks like Aerox making a move here. I mean, 50 points is a lot of points at this stage in the game. We are going to be seeing a decap also there from Java, who's going to try to steal it from Aerox, but I just don't think that Aerox is going to get it stolen by a Mesmer. But he does get it!
Oh my goodness, Aerox!
How does he let that happen?
Oh dear, that is unfortunate.
Chieftain was sitting at 10% HP for so long. Java just knows what he did at that point. Oh man.
That's unfortunate there for Zero Counterplay, potentially ruining their hopes of the upset here, as we will see that mid-cap go in favor of PZ. Aerox still looking to take on the 1v1, but the mid is going to be in favor of PZ here, who will be taking game number 2 with that Chieftain steal.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely would have had that either way, but I mean, talk about
Unfortunate.
man.
I feel like that happened with Aerox in an earlier week. Remember
Yeah,
with
yeah.
on Temple the Silent
This
Storm.
is the second time now that this has actually occurred where this team Zero Counterplay has struggled to make the final move on one of those secondary things and or on those secondary objectives, and it's really hurt them. I mean, they had an opportunity there. If they would have had that, that would have been a 50-point swing. And I mean, you can't have things like that happen. You can't have a thief. You can't have a thief get a boss stolen by a Resmer. I mean, like, that just can't happen. It can't.
He threw down the gravity wall at the end there, and it kind of messed up Aerox's, probably train of thought. Probably didn't even know he was in the area for that matter. Regardless, I think he got CC'd down by Chieftain. That's why he was kind of sitting there at 10% HP for a few seconds, and that's very unfortunate for Aerox and Zero Counterplay. Going to be falling to 0-6 there, while Team PZ one step closer to those season finals.
Yeah, and PZ is probably feeling so good right now. I mean, they were feeling probably good before the match even happened, but then of course, as the match progressed, as they saw, hey, wait a second, we're not doing so well right now. We have a shot at maybe losing this one, and we might have to go into a game 3 where once again we might lose that one. And if we lose this game, we're out. We're not going to the season finals. Spooky's going to be taking our place.
Well, we talk about how so the bad things is that Zero Counterplay, but talk about the good things. Over 400 points on Team PZ for Zero Counterplay on one of the most played maps, Forest of Niflhel. What do you have to say for them about that? And you mentioned even Cyndaquil, amazing play there.
Yeah, Cyndaquil playing out of his mind, actually making a couple of plays that I didn't expect from him. I mean, this is a player that, I mean, as I said before, played pretty well as a teammate on cunning stunts, and had a couple of struggles with rotations, but for the most part just kind of did his job, and that's all you really expect out of a player. That's definitely something that you like to see on a player like Cyndaquil, just someone who just goes in there every day, doesn't make too many mistakes, just does his job, does what he's supposed to do, and that's what he did today. And that kind of turned out into making a couple plays that you don't really expect from him, but still nonetheless looking good.
Well, what do you have to say for Team PZ, who kind of struggled there in that second game? I mean, was Zero Counterplay really that good, exploiting weaknesses there? What do you think on that end?
I think it goes both ways. I mean, of course, Zero Counterplay has really upped their game with the new roster, with the new play style that they're doing. Granted, you could even go as far as to say that Zero Counterplay is a little bit gimping themselves with their composition, but certainly they played really, really well against PZ, a team that is going to probably wind up going to the season finals to take on the other 3 top teams in the world, for that matter. And this is a good moment for them. I mean, despite the fact that they lost again, it's 6th time in a row that they've lost a match.
Yeah.
I would be pretty hopeful in their position.
All right. Well, we do have Zeus from Team PZ ready to talk with us about that match that just went down there against Zero Counterplay. Your heart has to be racing about that Forest of Niflhel match. Tell me what was going through your mind there.
We were just trying to get the 1 cap and secure it because they actually, Forest is like a really TDM, team deathmatch heavy map, and they have a comp that has 4 DPS and 1 bunker. And so we thought that we could res in some of the situations, and some of them we did. But that also makes it so that you fall into the trap of resing and then full wiping. So that was pretty well played by them, but it was a fun game. Java also stole the boss, so really what I was thinking was I was laughing because a Bunker Mesmer stole the boss.
Yeah, that was something that we did mention that unfortunately Aerox is going to have to live with for the rest of his life, being a thief that lost a boss to a Bunker Mesmer. Java, not even just a Bunker Mesmer, but a Bunker Mesmer that I believe is kind of new to Mesmer. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, certainly he's played it over the past couple of weeks, but hasn't played it competitively at all. So that maybe adds to the embarrassment. But you guys were playing pretty well on Temple. I kind of expected that you guys would have, if you were going to struggle at all versus Zero Counterplay, I didn't expect it very much. But if you were going to struggle at all, I was going to expect it on Temple. And then on Forest, you guys would have, just absolutely whooped them. But it actually wound up being backwards, where you guys played actually a lot better than I anticipated on Temple, a map that we haven't seen you guys all too much on. And then, turning up in Forest, Zero Counterplay just really turned everything up. And you talked about how they were playing that assassin kind of meta where they had those 4 really high DPS, and they kind of put you in positions where they were going, or they full wiped you. Were you guys expecting that at all? Were you kind of taken aback by that?
Temple, I think actually Temple is the better map for us because we have more bruisers or tankier people because we can send a person to like every fight. And when the buffs come up, it basically just becomes a 4 or a 5 point game. And then we have people on our team where everybody can just basically 1v1. So Temple's probably our better map, and Forest is probably their better map because Forest is really, it even has NPCs for boss. So like after you kill people, you can just go kill the boss repeatedly and just keep getting points. So yeah, I think it actually worked out like the way that we thought it was. And I think the only thing on Temple that made it so that we didn't even do even better was that I just died off the start of the game.
I mean, how did you guys feel with that composition you guys were playing? I mean, switching up the Elementalist for the Scrapper. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, if I was playing in your position, I probably would have just off of, first hunch, I would have stayed with the old comp with that Elementalist, just focusing on the team fights. You guys were playing the double Resmer, you go in with the Mercy runes as well. So in team fights, you might have had maybe a little bit more control. And I think that at least on Forest, you might have had a little bit more res potential as well. But I mean, actually, sorry, not even res potential because the Scrapper actually is pretty good at that. But in that regard, I mean, how did you guys feel about the composition going into a map that you're talking about? It's TDM. I mean, I completely agree with you. But I mean, do you feel like you guys went into it with all the right components?
I think that NG is really good for just the utility, like Slick Shoes and Stealth Gyro. And there was a couple of times where the stealth actually helped us out a lot and helped us get reses. I just think we didn't play as well as we thought we could play. And I think that they played better than we expected, especially on Force. And the other thing is Dragon Hunter, when they lay down, like 3 traps at a time, you only have so much stability. And the issue with actually, something interesting to bring up is EU kind of took like a little bit of the meta from NA, where they took the 2 bunker mesmers that ran Portal, and it proved to be really successful for their top teams. And we're kind of just taking something from them because I think that Engineer is really good, and also the Abjured runs Engineer, and Chaith is a really good NG, and it just like Stealth Gyro is just basically like the best. And I think it wasn't an issue with our comp, more so our play than the comp. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Zeus. Any last words?
No, that's it. Thanks everybody
All right.
for the
Well,
support.
thanks for joining us. That was